Hey guys, this is Savannah from earthandwater.co. Today I'm here with Lucy Bird Hope, a mindset coach, author, speaker, holistic guide, and entrepreneur. Your whole overall bio was very impressive, between the psychology and the book and the Lucid Lotus, which I love the play on your name on that. That was super cute. The Reiki, the shamanism, the healthy plant-based beverage company. I love it's got an overall energy and vibe to it, but which is also what I do. It's like when people ask me what I do, I'm like, well, I do this and I do that and I do that. And it's all connected, but it's a broad umbrella of things.
Exactly. Thank you for having me today. And yeah, anything kind of mind, body, spirit, or wellness, sign me up.
Yeah, essentially, right? That's where I'm at too. So tell us a little bit about how you got here.
Yeah, so I started, as you mentioned, I have a background in psychology. I was really always interested in that mind body connection, like the power our mind has over our lives. And then over the past like 5 years, I got really into alternative medicine. And as you mentioned, like Reiki and shamanic work. And a lot of that really came out of a painful time that I went through. I was struggling a lot a couple of years ago, and I would just wake up every day feeling awful with spiraling thoughts and anxiety and depression. And then throughout the day, I would learn a different way to feel better. I'd learn it from a therapist or a friend or a book I was reading. And by the end of the day, I'd be doing okay. But then the next morning I would wake up feeling horrible again. And I was so frustrated with this cycle that I decided to like circumvent it by writing whatever it was that I learned during the day that helped me down on a piece of paper. And I put it right by my bed. And the moment I opened my eyes, I grabbed that paper and replaced all those automatic negative thoughts with what I knew had worked for me. And eventually that piece of paper became pages on pages, and I self-bound it into a book for myself. And some friends and family asked, oh, you seem to be doing better. What spawned that? And I shared with them, I wrote this book to myself, and I was encouraged to publish it. And here we are. Here's my baby. It just came out this year, Daily Alignment, Tools to Balance Your Body, Mind, and Spirit. So that's been a really, really neat part of my journey that I am really excited about. Yeah.
That's awesome. I really like that backstory to the book.
Thank you. Thank you. And then my other companies as well really come out of a lot of the same things. So it's been cool for me to see how pain can become purpose. I was going through a lot of when I was feeling so bad mentally, emotionally, that started manifesting physically. And I had a lot of gut issues. So I was working with a functional medicine practitioner and doing detoxes to rebalance myself. And during that time, I couldn't eat a lot of, or really at all, dairy, gluten, sugar, alcohol, or yeast. And so one of my friends came by and he was like, hey, I know you're going through a rough time and I know you can barely eat anything. So I made you this almond milk. I've just been getting into it, and it's gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free. You can actually eat it. And I just wanted you to, feel like somebody's caring about you. And I took one sip and I said, you have to create a business out of this. This is too good. And so very long with the short, that's what he approached me and we did. We created Holism. That's the healthy beverage company. So we do a lot of nut milks, and we highlight the nutritional properties of the foods we use. So for example, we have a pistachio milk. Pistachios are high in melatonin, and we pair that with a chamomile lavender herbs, and that's our like chill out sleepy time milk. And we use all natural sweeteners, so dates and organic vanilla extract and cinnamon. So it's sugar-free, dairy-free, gluten-free, raw, vegan, plant-based, anything you can think of, but it actually tastes good. So we've had a lot of fun with that. Right now, we're focused on our podcast. We do a podcast every week, the Live Holism podcast, where we talk about how we are staying whole ourselves and just kind of sharing what we're going through with a lot of laughs. So that's been another neat thing that came out of it that I've really been enjoying.
Awesome.
And then and then to round it back out, the holistic guide that I got into Reiki just by being in pain and going to a massage therapist to feel better. And when she learned about what I was going through, she said, well, I would recommend Reiki if you're open to it. And I said, I've no idea what it is, but I am open to anything. That's what pain can push you to do. I found, So she did Reiki on me, and I loved it so much that I decided to go get certified so I could do it on myself. Otherwise, I was like, I'm going to have to hire this woman to live with me and Reiki me 24/7, So I went and I got certified, and a couple certifications in, my teacher recommended to me that I start my own practice, and a couple of, I've been doing that for a couple of years now. So it's really neat to see. It helps me a lot when I go through painful times now, because I'm like, hey, just stick with it, Lucy, and eventually this will turn out to, like, I'll ask myself, I wonder how this will serve me, or help me help others. And it's just neat to shift that energy now that I have such evidence of it.
Yeah. The best modalities, the best directions always come to us. It's not something we seek out. And I love how that's exactly how you ended up everywhere you are.
Exactly. Experience is the best teacher,
Yeah.
our own experiences.
You mentioned pain a couple of times. Was this mostly physical or emotional or both?
Yeah, I mean, I've found they really interplay with each other. I've found that mental pain, like really painful thoughts, leads to really painful emotions, leads to a painful physical experience. And in my studies, like, so that's just what happened to me. But then in my spiritual studies and working with teachers, I've learned that really makes sense. I've learned that we have, I used to think of myself as just Lucy. I have this body. And now I've learned that I have multiple bodies. I have a physical body, I have an emotional body, I have a mental body, I have a spiritual body. And when I learned to identify each of those bodies and then nurture them on their own, I got much more aligned overall. It was a cool way to kind of divide and conquer. So yeah, for me, I mean, it started mentally. I was just in a going through a corporate divorce, basically, and it was really painful. So my thoughts were really painful. I just felt emotionally really drained, and then I started seeing it manifest physically.
Yeah, because we do the natural thing as Westerners who don't really understand the whole like picture is to section things off. And for a long time it's kind of a new philosophy concept over here. It's definitely not new over in the Eastern practices and or world in general. I study languages a lot, and something that comes up a lot is that we have more of a is it Newtonian? I think it's Newtonian way of Newtonian logic is how we think over here, and it's more linear and more A plus B equals C, whereas in Eastern languages and philosophies and their culture, and because our language defines our world, it's how we create our reality. And when you have a whole lot of people creating a culture and reality together, it can get really interesting. But they see things as more of a what's the a paradoxical.
Mm.
So it's more like circular instead of linear. They use less words. They use more directions rather than defining like A plus B equals C. To them is more like, well, A plus B can equal C, or it can equal D, or it can equal F, or it can, whatever. And so yeah, they come, that's bringing it back to the layers thing of the mental body, the physical body, the spiritual body, all of that. Newtonian logic in the Western culture makes us so that we can understand it, divide everything up and section it off. And that's a great way to start for, like, absolutely, it's a great way to start. It's a great representation, like visual representation, to try and understand it. What we forget a lot of times is that, yeah, we do have all of these mental, physical, the trans-dimensional bodies, but the layers are simultaneously existing in the same location at the same place at the same time, and are touching all, like they interact, right? So we don't have just the mental body and the physical body. They're both the same thing. We're just trying to understand that how do emotions create physical ailments, but they do. Most every physical ailment can be traced directly back to an emotion of some sort, whether it started with you or someone else or got passed down through lineages. And I could go on for a hot minute about all that.
I love that. I resonate so much with what you said. It's so true. And I love that. I hadn't heard that specifically about the language. That's really beautiful. I resonate with that a lot. One thing I like to say to clients is the concept that physical or mental, emotional dis-ease is what leads to physical disease. I feel like that is one word that helps us, speaking of language,
Yeah.
resonate with that overarching concept of how interacting they really are. It's a powerful word. Disease is really just dis-ease. It's fascinating.
Yeah, emotion, energy in motion. I love words because it really does. There's a lot of words that we don't realize have created the reality or where they came from. And so like coming back in on itself that we don't realize.
Yes, I spoke to an English teacher recently who's one of my friends, and we were talking about how much we love words and the words inside of words and the language and how they were passed down in their original meaning and then they get add to it. And he was saying it's almost like every word is pregnant because it's like, it's just such a cool concept. I love that. Language is powerful. I mean, to what you said, it's like we are with our words, their vibrations, their frequencies, their manifestations really that we're putting out there, and they do shape our reality and they do interplay with other people's vibrations and create this reality. So words are very powerful.
Yeah, look at affirmations. Our words are our spells. That's why I get really I like
Yeah.
magic. And I've always been into like fairies and dragons and stuff from like a very young age, and hid from reality in books my whole childhood. And those are magic spells. Affirmations are words. If you have, I had a friend stop by yesterday. He's had a hard time lately with like losing people in his life, and he was just one complaint about another. Like he would everything he would spend about 5 minutes per subject and everything was like blaming and complaining, and I was like, love, um we we create what we focus on, we perpetuate what we focus on. You have to uh kind of find the line between venting and
Mhm.
taking responsibility for the perpetuation of the despair, like, and like I'm trying to really graze over all of this. So I don't want it to sound like he just lost people and you're being insensitive, and absolutely not. But we're also not trying to get into people's business online and stuff. But
No, I totally hear what you're saying. It's true. It's like there's this delicate balance of releasing what energy is being carried in you, like sharing what you went through, and then pivoting and blending to what does serve you. Like pivoting and blending is one of my favorite things. It's recognize when there's something you don't want or don't like or isn't serving you in your experience, taking a breath and turning in literally any other direction, reintegrating yourself and going in that new direction. So it's important that we recognize in awareness, what isn't going right that we want to change, because that's when we can make that decision to pivot. It's another thing you make me think of is a cool concept of neurolinguistics, basically like the power of the words that we're saying in our mind and how they are making an impact on our brain, especially like you talked about affirmations. Like it's very, whatever we are speaking about, we are resonating with and creating. It's cool. You I totally resonate with you too, because I love magic and fairies and totally read my whole childhood too. So it's a great way to just explore other worlds and escape a little bit.
yeah, I brought my imagination from childhood into adulthood with me, which makes me feel, it makes me seem a little out there sometimes, but I'm very grounded in reality. I just understand, everybody gets stuck in that existential crisis thing of, we're too aware of ourselves and the impermanence of everything. So we can really drown in the what's the point? It's all going to burn anyway. What does it matter? And then enter that depression era, right? And I kind of took that and like, exactly. It doesn't matter. It is all going to burn eventually. Therefore, yeah, wear the Renaissance gear to Walmart. Why not?
Yes. It's the liberation in that instead of the depression.
Yeah.
It's like seeing that concept as a form of freedom, and then able to view this world as a playground, and like do experiments like like looking out on your day as a chemistry experiment, just trying things and seeing what happens. It creates this like freedom and playfulness to things.
Literally always be trying new things. I don't I, ever since I got into energy healing and whatnot, I don't have near as the problems I used to have, but I used to have a lot of physical problems, like sugar issues and skin issues and just whatever. And my doctors absolutely hated me every time I went to them and like with a problem. And one of the questions they would ask is like, have you done anything new lately? Have you changed detergents? Have you switched shampoos? And I'm like, literally I use something different every single time I do anything ever. And then you see
Wow.
exasperation go over their face, like, how can I down? Like, I'm sorry.
That's so inspiring though, and I hear that too. I think that embracing, one of the things I like to do is even in breath work, inhaling and breathing in everything new, and exhaling and releasing everything that no longer serves me, everything old, everything past. It's so important to continually bring in the new, because that's how we naturally let the past flow out of our experience. Like bringing in the new is what allows us to be reborn every day or every moment. I mean, you can start your life fresh. You can release your old identity. You can release your past programmings. You can release your past stories anytime you want to.
Mhm.
And doing something new helps your energy naturally align with that new direction. And before you know it, the past has just flown away like it wants to. Really, we hold on to the past when we keep it active in our energy, in our speech, in our mental emotional patterns, but we don't have to do that. And so I love what you say about doing something new. One of my favorite games along that I like to recommend to clients is and well, first I'll share why. So I'll see clients, and it's great to share that healing and get them in a wonderful feeling place. The thing is, after I leave, their thoughts and their emotions are going to be what determines a lot of how good they feel for how long. Like healing is wonderful, and the power after that is in the person's own hands, right? Like to align their mental emotional energies going forward with that healing. So one easy game I like to tell clients to play if they're called to is to just do anything different. So that means when you go to sleep, sleeping with your head at the foot of the bed and your feet at the opposite. When you walk down the stairs, walk down them sideways or backward. Brush your teeth in the opposite direction. Use a fork where you would have used a spoon. Anything that gets you out of those automated routines, because in those moments, like when you're sitting there brushing your teeth, you may not realize it, but that's when those automatic kind of negative mental grooves in your brain are being just going back and forth. You may not even realize what you're thinking about, but they're just thoughts that you've been repeating for so long. They're just playing in your head. But when you force yourself to be more like active in your routines, like doing something silly, like sleeping with your head at the opposite end of the bed, you switch up those neurological patterns and you allow that newness that we were talking about, which is very healing.
Yeah, it can absolutely be the smallest of things that don't even apply to the thing that you're trying to change. I agree completely. And a lot of times it's easier to enact those types of changes because essentially to get to where you want to be, I mean, there's a lot of paths you can take there. There's a lot of paths, and you really just got to figure out what works best for you. And that means trying out a bunch of things. But everybody wants to, when they focus on trying to change a certain pattern, I always talk about just diet as a good universal example. Everyone's focus is, okay, I have to stop doing XYZ.
Mhm.
And no, that's a lot harder. That's a lot harder. You want to start doing more positive habits, more positive things, and that will just naturally crowd out the negative, the bad. But yeah, it doesn't even have to be related to food. You can just brush your teeth differently.
That's powerful. I love how you phrased it. Yeah, that's big because it can seem overwhelming for people. I mean, I've been there. It can seem overwhelming to stop doing something, and then you're just like, and then you forget to stop, and then you're self-flagellating, and it's just when you could just totally let go of all that and then focus on it's like I like to say that about habits, because that's what my book is so much about. It's really about building those like daily physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual habits to be there, so that when you're in that triggered place, when you're in that crises place, your like training comes in, your habits that you've built just overtake you. So that's why I like to say it's much easier than focusing on all these old habits that are bad that you want to change. That's okay. Just focus on the new habits that you want to bring in, and those old ones will flow out. Just like you were saying. That's really cool.
And it's all energy. It's all energy. Energy's always flowing, always moving. We find the problems when the energy becomes stagnant because the energy wants to move. And if it's not moving, then that's when you get the countless amounts of problems in both the body and the outside world, so the internal and the external. So it could be relationship issues just as easily as it can be gut problems. And another thing you can do to get the energy moving, because again, it doesn't even have to relate to the problem you're trying to fix. You're just getting the energy moving. And a common direction that people go with that is exercise, but that's nobody really, that's not fun really. But coming from a yoga teacher also, like I, I understand. But anyway, you can just rearrange your living room, and
Yeah.
that gets energy moving. It freshens the place up. We moved my friend's bed uh a foot the other day. That's all we did. There was a table on the right side, and all we did was move the table from the right side to the left side and then close the 1 foot gap where the table had been. Freshened the whole place up. It felt like you could feel the energy. And it's like, wow, all we moved a bed 1 foot. But that also speaks to the amount of energy and power certain objects hold. We spend a lot of time in our bed. So if you move your bed and a foot over, you're going to be able to feel that way more than you think you're going to.
Wow. Yeah, it's powerful. Everything carries energy, and we live in this vibrational universe where, and this is scientifically shown too, we're vibrational beings. Like I'm made of trillions of vibrating atoms, and you're made of trillions of vibrating atoms, and this table is made of trillions of
That
vibrating
don't
atoms.
even touch.
It, and so it's like we're walking through this universe, and my vibrations are interacting with your vibrations and other people's vibrations, and constantly integrating and connecting and aligning and realigning. It's just cool how like we can't see that, right? But it's a very real part of our life and of what we're manifesting and of the reality we experience. Powerful.
Yeah, quantum physics really, really shook up everything that we know and it to be real not very long ago. And it's still catching up with the mainstream and the people, the common folk. That's common folk. That sounds rude. I don't mean it rude. I just mean people who don't care, the people, regular people walking around, not writing books and reading books and studying complex mathematical science equations.
Yeah, yeah, it's fascinating. I've been delving into it, and it's just like a whole new world. I always get fascinated thinking of what else are we going to discover that totally blows our mind, We always think or sometimes I feel like, and maybe this is like a Western thing too, that we know so much and we can like poo-poo certain things because they don't align with what we know, but that's going to shift. I love thinking of things from an open mindset and like just hearing other people's truths and other people's experiences and just leaving space for all of that. Because at the end of the day, I don't know. I know what aligns more with me and what beliefs I find important and what I value, but I don't use them as an excuse to just totally eliminate or just like sidestep or not even take into account someone else's experience or truth or beliefs. Like it's cool that there can be so many things in common. Like even religions, if you can just look at the love in all of them, you can see a lot more in common. And it's wild that we can find things that religions or whatever it is, that humans or whoever it is that share, there's usually so much more that unites us than that separates us when we can have a mindset that allows for that.
Yeah, it's going back to that Newtonian way of thinking where everything's set in a box. And because that's exactly why we get that categorizing thing that we feel like we need to do as humans. It's like, okay, so you go into that box and I go into that box and yada yada, whatever. When the truth of the matter is that there are an infinite amount of truths. Like truth A is not the all-encompassing truths. Truth B, truth C, that all apply to the same topic are all the same. And that's the problem with we get into like politics and lawmaking and whatnot, is that you have to define it as a clear-cut boxable thing, and most things are not. Nothing's boxable. Like we can do our best, but honestly the only way we would ever have laws and policies that were grade A unproblematic for across the board is if you addressed every situation on a case by case basis. And we can't really do that, not
Right.
currently anyway.
Right. Yeah, you make me think of one of my teachers shared with me. He was like, there are however many people are on this earth, there are billions of personal realities. Like there are billions of personal movies, that we are the star of and that has this whole complex world. There are billions of worlds that we are all living in, and everyone's world is different than everyone else's.
Different.
It's so fascinating.
You can have twins, identical twins, that never spend a moment away from each other, and they're both going to create a different reality in their heads for how things are. We can't escape it, and we can't really see into anybody else's reality at all whatsoever. We think we can, and that's where like judging comes from and stuff. But you can spend every moment with someone and still not understand the full concept of their reality. Listening to them, they can tell it to you, they can describe it to you, they can explain it to you, and that's why listening is so important with an objective standpoint. Let them lay it out and paint the picture for you. Don't try to fill in the blanks. Don't try to do any guesswork. Don't try to assume, because you can't ever. And these little reality bubbles bumping up against each other is not an easy thing to navigate. But the more you can remember that you will never know the person you are closest to the most in the world, you will never, ever, ever be able to see the full picture of who they are and how they are, because you can't see into their mind. And even if they share everything with you, there's always going to be things they're not going to share with you. I mean, like, and it can be as big or as small as you want it to be. It could be like they have that deep, dark skeleton that they'll never let out and nobody will ever know. But it could also be something as simple as you will never see them brush their teeth.
Right.
They do it behind locked doors for some reason. I don't know.
Yes, it's so true. I love I could really visualize what you said about our reality bubbles like bumping up against each other.
Yeah.
It's so powerful. And it's kind of like, it reminds me a little bit of how we talked in the beginning. Like, this is a concept that maybe that sounds like you could see that as like depressing or sad, that you'll never know someone else's reality. But really, if you can view it as liberating and just that, again, to that playground and that experimental phase, it's like we're never going to know. So you might as well stop trying. And then you can do a lot more fun things with your energy than trying to control other people's, realities. You can just get in your bubble and have a great time.
Yeah, 'cause I mean, like honestly though, we don't even know our own reality bubbles for the fullest because they're changing constantly. Again, energy and motion. That's the only constant. The only constant is change. The you 2 minutes ago is completely different from the you now, just because we're having this interaction at all. And so yeah, it can absolutely be liberating because then you can you know, really master the art of letting go and surrendering to whatever is in this moment instead of what you think things should be.
Exactly. Yeah. God, that's so powerful. I love that. I'm just letting that soak in. Oh. You're full of a lot of wisdom. It's fun to talk to you. We're really aligned. I love hearing your thoughts on these things. Wow.
Thank you.
It's cool too because we have these, when we have these realities, it's like our perception of reality are kind of these bubbles that we're in. Because like we said, there isn't really even a true reality. It's just what we're perceiving as reality.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's been so fascinating for me, to see how much our thoughts are the foundation of the reality that we perceive. And basically, if like what we're thinking, what we focus on, like you said, it builds, it gathers momentum. What we project will happen in our minds, we are imprinting on our lives. Like, we have our thoughts create our reality. And so looking at it from that lens, that's led me to put a lot more focus on harnessing the power of my thoughts and realizing what I can do with them. A little bit back to our point, you could see that as very upsetting that your thoughts have so much power over your life. But when you move through those feelings, then you can get to the other side and see the liberation and the freedom and the empowerment in that.
Yeah, and it is all just looking for truth. Because again, going back to my friend yesterday, he had all of these stories in his head that were drowning him, absolutely drowning him. And I had to help him rein back a little bit to truth. I'm like, look, I see where you see this, this, and this, but did you think about this and this? And he was like, well, damn, I was trying to be upset, Savannah. I know. And then he started off the conversation with how he was thinking about moving because things would be better elsewhere. And I'm like, and I let him get it out. I let him talk. And then I was just, because I try not to give unsolicited advice. I mean, people come to me and they want to complain, and I just let them complain because they, sometimes they just need that. But if you prompt me, I'm just going to smile and nod. But if you prompt me, I'm going to tell you the truth. And that's where things get a little sticky sometimes, because people aren't always willing to or ready to hear the truth and everything. But the truth of the matter is that your reality is going to be the exact same no matter where you go. And you can all day be like, well, the cost of living is cheaper in this location. Okay, yeah, but again, everything's vibrational energy. And if that is your energy relationship with money, then that's going to be your energy relationship with money even there. So if you're struggling with rent prices here specifically and you get over there, it's going to be something different, but you're still going to be struggling with money. Relationships, you can all, I used to be this one. I was like, as soon as I turn 18, I'm gone. I am never coming back, solely because I want to go somewhere where no one knows me, because everybody knows me here. I've lived in the same 5 mile radius my entire life. I know everybody on my road, not because I moved here and then met them, but because either I went to school with them, my parents went to school with them, my grandparents went to school with them, or I'm related to them. Like, it's literally, it's very, and it was very overwhelming to grow up in such a location. And but you know, despite all of the relationship issues that I had, moving was not going to make anything better. It wasn't going to fix them. It wasn't going to make them go away. It was just going to make them look different. That's all. You have to
Wow.
do the internal work. Everything's internal. So if you think, well, that person is causing problems in my life, yeah, I think that person's probably causing problems in their own life. You probably need to not so much blame them as much as find boundaries that support your needs. And if now we're getting into relationship stuff, so we're just going to cut that off right there. But yeah.
No, but totally. I mean, what you're saying is so powerful and so true. It's like if you envision that moving will solve your problems, then okay, what is it that you envision will be different there?
Mhm.
So like, do you feel like you will feel peace? Okay. Well, then go ahead and start manifesting peace in your life now.
Mhm.
That's the only way it really, that's either, and then either you feel better now, or once you become into that peaceful place, you attract that perfect move. And then, when you get there, you're peaceful too. But it will never work to be standing here and thinking, once I move, I'll be peaceful. Yeah.
Right. That's a lot of times that's people trying to avoid the work. Because, if you want to be peaceful and that person is disrupting your peace, it's it feels a lot easier to just pick up your entire life and move it 3 states over rather than just tell that person no every now and then.
Right. Right. It's
Which
wild.
I get, our relationships are the hardest thing on the planet.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
so rewarding if you can just be brave enough to say no every now and then and create those healthy boundaries.
Exactly. And it's back to that empowerment. It's realizing that you have the power to create your reality here, there, and everywhere. It's
Mhm.
it's always up to you and your inner world, your inner reality, tending to that, nurturing that like it's a garden is going to get you more of I found will get you more of those feelings that you want than trying to fix or control or change everything around you to be exactly as you want it so that then you can be happy.
Yeah, yeah. Everything's a right now in the moment type of thing. It is a destination, but it's also not a destination. And the journey's as long or as short as you allow it to be. And, we tend to allow ourselves to stay in suffering for a lot longer than we have to. I have clients, they're like, how do I know when I'm healed? And I'm like, well, for
Mm,
one, you stop questioning it and it's a sense of being. You just decide that you are one day, honestly. And that's a lot easier said than done, for sure. Like even on the surface area. And even then, like you'll think you are, and then something will happen and it'll re-trigger it, and then it'll be like, oh, I thought I was over this. Well, now it's coming up to be cleared a little bit more, and eventually if you just keep, no, I said I was over this, so I'm letting it go, and then you just keep doing that every time it comes up, you're like, I said go on, and eventually it'll be like it won't even pop up anymore.
yes, yes. And I love that you say this. I do this practice. And what I try to highlight is so, like, I'll recognize there's a trigger and there's a lesson that I need to learn because it's triggering me, right? That's what I've learned, my beliefs is that that is the benevolence of the universe. They are bringing you these things that trigger you so that you can be free of them, so that you can face them and release them. And if you don't, they'll just bring it to you again. Yay. All to help you be free from it. And so what I will highlight is okay, I realize this trigger. I want to release this. I did the work to release this. I'm feeling better. I'm moving forward. Okay, so something that triggered the same thing comes up in my experience. I will start recognizing that it was easier than the time before.
Yeah.
And I will just highlight that as many times as it comes up into my experience until by the end of it, all I'm doing is stubbing my toe,
Mhm.
and then I'm like, oh, I'm feeling those feelings of frustration. I know that this has been my trigger. when this started like 4 years ago, it was this giant thing that caused me frustration that I had to work on. But the lessons have been getting easier and easier. And now it's just stubbing my toe. So I'm definitely not going to give in and let this one get me. And I'm just going to release it and say, look, it's getting easier. My lessons are getting easier. My lessons are getting easier, and let it continue that way. Instead of, and this is how I used to live, so I totally get it. But instead of having that big lesson that gives you frustration and you handle it, and then another lesson comes along to give you frustration, and you go, I just handled this. This is so annoying. And you get totally frustrated. And then it's like inflaming it again.
Mm.
And then you have to go through with a bigger lesson. So it's just like, okay, just because it's coming back up in your experience doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. Just recognize and hopefully it is, it's getting a little smaller, a little easier every time, and just highlight that as your focus instead of never having it coming in your experience. And eventually, if you did that long enough, it should flow out of your experience and you won't have to face it again. It's a fun game I've definitely been playing.
Yeah,
It's helpful.
it's definitely a game of persistence.
Yeah.
One, framing it as a game is the exact perfect, beautiful, awesome way that we should be doing it. Because again, getting back to the magic thing, our inner child, we're all just children. We're all children, the exact same kid we were when we were 7. On the inside, it's just now we have a lot more experience and a lot more responsibilities, and oftentimes a lot more trauma, but you know what, we're working on it. And it's just being persistent, turning it into a game, which makes it easier to handle, because again, it can be whatever you decide it is. You can make up any kind of game you want to that goes along with it, and the more games you can make up with everything, is the easier you'll be able to get through it. But it is just persistence, being stubborn enough to be like, no. And they're varying degrees too, because if you have been traveling east for 30 years and now you're starting to try to travel west, you're not just gonna end up on the other side of where you started overnight. You've been traveling in this direction for 30 years. You kind of have to, and not that you have to travel for 30 years in the opposite direction. It's just, because we have vehicles. We have all sorts of types of vehicles, and you can imagine that. And again, it's a game, it can be whatever you want it to be, but just noting that you are turning around in that direction and traveling out of it is going to take some time.
Yeah, 100%. I like the vehicle analogy. And it's true, because sometimes it's like the moment we come aware, or like for me, when I became aware of going, west or whatever, and I wanted to go the other way, as soon as I was like, oh, I'm going, in a direction I don't want to go, I'm turning the other way. And I was like, great, okay, I did it. Everything should be easy now and done, and I should do this overnight. And so what you're saying is a really powerful part of the acceptance, or being gentle and kind with yourself, to realize that you're not doing anything wrong, that it takes a little bit to get this new momentum going. It's just that. It's just needing to build new momentum, and your momentum was going in the other direction. So it's just needing to build that snowball and let that snowball build and then let it roll. And that's okay. That's normal.
Yeah, and sometimes we'll make a couple of left turns accidentally. Like the journey itself is not a straight line, right? So, we turned around and now we're traveling east or west or whichever direction, but there was a few curves in the road along the way. And now we've gotten turned around and we missed a turn back there. So, and then we realized that we're traveling in the same direction we were trying not to travel. In which case, all you can do is stop for a second, be like,
Go to a rest stop,
breathe.
regroup.
You can decide to be mad about it, or you can accept that it happened, and well, it happened, so you can't change it. We're just gonna turn and go.
Yep. And this gets us back to like the power of the journey too. Because it's then that if you remove the goal of needing to be a certain place and you're just focused on the travel, then that can be enjoyable. That can be fun. And the whole time you're headed towards, this maybe destination you have in mind, you can be enjoying it.
The only
There's
destination is death.
Yeah, exactly. And even that is just a transition to non-physical. I mean, I believe,
Oh yeah, I do
but
too.
it's powerful. Like, literally today, one of my things that I've been doing, I love, I feel like you might resonate with this, is I have a group of treasure hunting friends, and there's someone in our community that puts on these treasure hunts and hides this thing somewhere in Raleigh and then gives you clues on finding it. And so they do it once a quarter, and we have a lot of fun with it. And that happened last night. And I'm in a place today where the treasure hunt is continued. Like, and I reminded myself of this today because when I woke up, I was like, oh my God, are we going to be the team that gets it? I can't believe it's still going on. Like, oh no, we have to get the treasure. And then I stopped and I said, wait, this is the reward. I am on a live treasure hunt right
Yeah.
now. This is the feeling. This is the reward I've already won. So just keep having fun seeking the treasure. It doesn't even really matter that much if you find it. Like, I'm winning right now just by these feelings of jubilation that I'm hunting for a treasure with my friends.
I'm
It's a
living
really
out my dream as a pirate.
love that. Yes, exactly. So yeah, it's just a fun way to embrace it because we never reach the destination. There's never anywhere that whenever we reach any goal, we just start a new one. Whenever we finish a to-do list, we just start a new one. Whenever so why not just enjoy the ride?
Yeah, yeah. People, I think a common one people get stuck in is they think they have to XYZ before they make it to the destination of happiness or peace. And you're never gonna get anything like that if you're chasing it or thinking you have to travel to it. You have to cultivate it in the moment where you are right now through stubbornness. You can't be like, well, this is going wrong and that's going wrong. How do you expect me to be happy right now? I you got to figure it out. You got to find a joke, make a joke, see life as a joke. Because I mean, like, you can laugh or you can cry, and which one you decide to do is up to you.
Exactly. And stubbornness makes me think of like what is the word when you do something over and over? Consistency.
Yeah.
Consistency. It's like being stubborn in your consistency to your dedication. I mean, really, that's habits, I guess. Habits are stubbornness. I like that viewpoint. Like
Consistent persistence. We have lots of words for, and that's the fun thing about energy, because there's, again, back to the words, there's over 7,000 different languages in the world. That means there's over 7,000 different ways to say the word chair, or to project the word create or happiness. And each language has like all of these what are they, they're not Inuisms. What are they called? I don't know. Anyway, but we're talking about habits, persistence. It's all the same energy. That's why I like energy work, because it breaks down the language barriers. With my husband, oh my gosh, I'll say a sentence that's I left two words out of there, and he'll be like, technically it was a 5 instead of a 4. I'm like, dude. Eh, See, that's the mindset that everybody gets stuck in. The concrete, rock solid, 90-degree angle, clear cut solidity of the words, when nothing is that solid. Again, we're talking about our cells earlier. We're made up of all these atoms that don't even freaking touch. Make it make sense. We're not even solid. We think we are. Nothing's actually solid. That's insane. So to take that into the malleable aspect of just energy in and of itself, and how we're projecting this energy based on the words that we use. Habits, consistency, persistence, stubbornness, playfulness, imagination, reality creating, dimension hopping. I don't know. There's tons of, it's all the same thing. It's all the same thing. If we could just back up a little bit and try to see the whole picture instead of trying to dissect it to nothingness, which is
right, right. It's much more a both and universe than a either or, you
yeah.
know?
Yeah, it's all the same. It's all one big conglomerate blob of matter and stuff.
I love it. I love it. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Well, I've really, really enjoyed this. I love the direction it went. I get on these podcast episodes for the first time with people, and I have no idea how it's going to play out. This one was really fun. Enjoyed talking about all of this. Would you like to share with people how they can find you and what types of services you offer them? And
Yeah, sure, sure. And it's been an honor to be here. I've really thoroughly enjoyed our conversation as well. You can find me on my website, lucybirdhope.com. It's bird with a Y. And you can get my book there, Daily Alignment. You can also go to Amazon and just pop in Daily Alignment by Lucy Bird Hope and get it there. And you can also work with me through my website, whether you want. I do distant work with the Reiki healing and well-being, and then I also am doing group coaching, so check that out on my website if you're interested. And then my Facebook and Instagram are also Lucy Bird Hope, so pretty easy there.
awesome. And of course, I'll link all of that close by so that nobody has to go searching for you too hard.
Cool, thank you. This has been so much fun. It was really great to co-create with you in this way.
I've enjoyed it too. And I love that I get to come on here and create something with someone else. And so, just like you were talking earlier about your holism company being your book being your baby, and like, well, the holism is too, right? We got to create a episode together. I just think that's really cool.
I do too. I really do. I really do. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. You have a great day.
You too.